Hello, internets. You may have heard an argument from socialists before that goes something like this.
You will certainly never get paid exactly the amount of value that you bring with your labor. That will never happen. Why? Because of what is known as profits. A company cannot have profits if they pay their workers the fair due. If they actually pay their workers exactly how much money their workers are generating, then there's no profits. Profits are surplus labor value extracted from the workers. That's just it. Simple as.
This argument is tied to the labor theory of value and the claim that profit is theft. It's a big reason why so many regular people probably get tricked into socialist thought. I'm sure most people have at some time felt like they aren't getting paid enough for the nonsense they put up with in whatever their job is. But is this feeling that you aren't being paid fairly really the fault of profits and this thing known as surplus labor value that your company is supposedly extracting from you? Well, no. And the reason this socialist talking point doesn't make any sense is fairly straightforward. Surplus labor value doesn't exist. There is absolutely no such thing. And to demonstrate this, here's a simple tale, using Fumos, because why not? Let's say that Marisa gets an idea. She's tired of blasting magic all over the place and decides to make some money selling lemonade. So she builds a lemonade stand, buying the lemons and supplies, advertising the lemonade, finding just the right spot in Gensokyo for it, and of course, making and selling her lemonade to random passerbys. Let's say at this point that it costs her $1 to make a glass of lemonade, which she sells for $3, so a $2 profit. To keep things simple, we'll just say that 10 glasses of lemonade on average are sold every hour, effectively making $20 an hour. Then Marisa gets another idea. What if she builds a second lemonade stand and convinces Reimu to work there for $10 an hour, with Marisa providing all the supplies she needs? Marisa then repeats this process until she has created a vast chain of lemonade stands. At some point, Marisa stops working at her own stand and dedicates her time to management. She has now effectively become a capitalist. This is where the socialists start to whine a bit. They argue that Reimu and the other girls are generating $20 an hour of value through their labor, but are only being paid $10 an hour. Therefore, the $10 profit is considered surplus labor value that is being stolen from them, and that Marisa is thus exploiting their labor. Oh no, that sucks. But if we think about this logically, we can find some major flaws in their reasoning. If Marisa paid them the full $20 an hour, then she wouldn't be making any more than she did when she was running a single lemonade stand all by herself. So she would have no reason or incentive to do this. In fact, she could risk losing money or seriously wasting her time. Think of all the work that goes into building the stands, finding the perfect spot for the stands, getting the supplies for the stands, repairing and maintaining the stands, dealing with potential lemon shortages, and so on and so forth. Depending on how well she does all these things, the profits can be completely different. If something goes wrong resulting in less than 4 lemonade sales per hour, she could end up paying Reimu and the other girls more wages than she gets back in profits. Lemonade sales could also rise on a sunny day or fall on a rainy day, depending entirely on how customers subjectively feel about parting with their money for a glass. There's also consent. Did Marisa force Reimu to work for $10 an hour? No, if Reimu feels there's a better use of her time, she and everyone else could just quit. Again, this ties into subjective value. How much does a person value their time? How much do you value your time? You could ask 10 different people this question and get 10 different answers. Again, this is based on subjective feelings. So Marisa must offer the other girls an opportunity that meets or exceeds this subjective value. At the very least, Marisa needs to offer them payment that they consider worth more their time than building their own lemonade stand and becoming a potential competitor. So when we look at the big picture, we can now see a huge error in the labor theory of value. They are assuming that costs and value must be intrinsically connected, but this is not always the case. The cost of something is the loss or penalty incurred especially in gaining something, while value can be understood as relative worth, utility, or importance. This error in their reasoning can be further demonstrated by a simple question. What if Marisa found a way to cut costs by 50% while still providing the exact same product? Does the utility of her product also somehow change? Of course not, it's still the same gosh darn lemonade. This is one of the many reasons why the labor theory of value is rejected by most modern economists in favor of a subjective theory of value. Value is complicated and relative to thousands of different variables. Socialists oversimplify this concept of value by fitting it all into work done by a laborer. And then they accuse the profit of companies generated from said variables of being theft of some surplus in the value of said labor. Therefore, the very concept of surplus labor value can actually be seen as an example of a personal incredulity fallacy. Marxists fail to comprehend the complex nature of value and how it works in a subjective fashion, so they incorrectly conclude that it must somehow not be subjective and the profits generated from it are somehow a bad thing. The concept is thus nothing more than a phantom born from their confusion and lack of understanding. It doesn't exist. By breaking things down into lemonade stands, the concept of subjective value is easier to understand and see how the value in what Marisa is doing is fairly represented in the profits she is earning. But if you want an even more in-depth explanation for this, consider reading the article "This Bread is Mine" by the Mises Institute. The truth is that without profits, Marisa would have no incentive to build a chain of lemonade stands, and surprise, surprise, history has shown that one of the big problems with socialism is that it tends to hurt incentive. So that leaves us the question then, if profit is not theft, and this surplus labor value isn't at fault for the problems, then why does it feel like wages and quality of life have stagnated in the United States? The answer to that is honestly a topic for another video, but if you are curious, you can start by looking into the questionable relationship between Wall Street and Washington, D.C. You may find that it's not so much the structure of market economies that is at fault for our decline, but rather it is corruption and unnecessary regulation that has been intentionally designed to stifle competition that is the real enemy. But for now, that's all. So thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and all that. Till next time.